Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sabbath Rest Book Talk, where fiction is good for you, where we talk about how reading fiction helps us stay more fully human, and where we feast on the fruit that fiction bears in our lives. My name is Erin McCole Cupp. I'm the author of the Jane E. Friendless Orphan series, which, by the way, is on sale this week. Well, for a limited time only. Each of the 3 books is only 99 cents, so go help yourself. I'm also one of your hosts here this evening. Another host who's been with us for quite some time is Carolyn Astfalk. Carolyn, why don't you say hi and introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Carolyn Astfalk from the lovely, sweet-smelling land of Hershey, PA, and happy to join you again and talk about books.
Excellent. Thank you, Carolyn. Carolyn is not only an excellent reader, but she is also the author of the recently released Rightfully Ours. It's a YA romance that deals with relationship issues and maturity issues. So I think it's a really good read for your older teens. She also has some other books out, so check her out at carolynastfalk.com. We miss Rebecca Willen tonight. Rebecca Willen, who blogs at Restless Independent. She is, I'm really super jealous, she is going to a Shakespeare festival this weekend. And not just a Shakespeare festival in Canada. So that's sort of fun. So she's on the road and we don't get to have her. But sitting in for Carolyn tonight, we have our newest co-hostess, Cathy Gilmore. Cathy Gilmore is the founder of VirtueWorks Media Incorporated. VirtueWorks Media is the ministry that works to make virtue the new standard in entertainment. Cathy, why don't you say hi to our viewers this evening?
Hello, everyone. I am coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri, so where you never know where the weather is going to be. It may be hot right now, and 5 minutes later, it'll change its mind. So hopefully we'll have a good time tonight. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. The question is, does it smell like chocolate out in St. Louis?
No, dang it. No. Now, I have emergency chocolate in my drawer behind me that I could pull out if it's needed.
Well, that's highly valuable as well. I'm sorry, when Carolyn said it smells good in Hershey, Carol and I actually in real life don't live that far from each other. I live in the smellier part of Pennsylvania, where this time of year you smell manure and mushroom farms, and it's not nearly as pleasant as Hershey. So yeah, thanks both of you for joining us this evening. I want to talk a little bit about tonight's focus, which is revolution. And that might sound like a strange thing for us to be talking about where fiction is good for you here at Sabbath Rest Book Talk. But all 3 of us hosting tonight happen to be Americans. And it's July. And this month is the anniversary of the birth of our country. And our country, in case you hadn't heard, was born out of this revolution. Because people here got sick of being told what to do by an entity that wasn't close, that was removed. So revolution for us has the connotation of something immediate and something freeing and something that helps us connect better with with reality, with truth. In other nations, however, I was kind of thinking about this, and the word revolution can mean the start of oppression. Like when I think of communism in Russia and China and Vietnam and other places, obviously. When I think of the French Revolution, the first thing I think about is, have you ladies ever heard, I haven't read the book, but The Song of the Scaffold? Where, okay, it was a group of, I believe, Carmelite nuns who were rounded up during in the days after the revolution. And they all went to the scaffold, to the guillotine, singing. And one by one, you hear the song stop, like get quieter and quieter and stop. So revolution, it has a whole wide variety of connotations. Maybe not a wide variety, but it just kind of sort of seems to swing from one side of an extreme to another. And no matter what happens, somebody always gets hurt. Revolution is this, I think of it as this cry for change, and it can be good and it can be bad. So tonight's books take a look at the reasons we humans fight each other and how we fight each other and what it all means for us as humans. Are we just dogs fighting over scraps mindlessly because we want what we want? Or are we fighting for something higher? But before we go any further, I want to talk about something else that's pretty exciting that's happening tonight here on Sabbath Rest Book Talk. We have a winner to announce tonight. Our adult book selection for this month is Fight for Liberty by friend of Sabbath Rest Book Talk, Theresa Linden. She has generously offered to give away a copy of her entire Liberty trilogy, which is 3 books: Chasing Liberty, Testing Liberty, and Fight for Liberty. And in case you don't know, the Liberty trilogy is a dystopian novel. I thought it was kind of YA, but I do see why we would pick it for an adult book too, because it does deal with some adult difficult things, but there's still that young adult role model aspect in Liberty and in her what do we want to call him? Her
Love interest?
Love interest in her love interest, Dedrick, who is really awesome, by the way. If I were imaginary and not married, Dedrick might be. But anyway, Theresa is being really generous, and tonight we're going to announce the winner of her contest. So stay tuned to the end. With that note, let's just jump in. Let's start with Fight for Liberty first. Let's talk about Fight for Liberty. Okay, I'm going to just jump in first and say, of all of the villains I have ever read in my entire life, Supero is my favorite villain. He's absolutely my favorite villain. He's so heartbreakingly bad. I love how she wrote him, how he can't help being the disaster that he is, and how heartbreaking it is. I realize that doesn't directly fit into our theme, but whenever I think of that whole trilogy, the first thing I think of is poor Dr. Supero, the man you love to hate.
Even visually, he's just creepy from his description, his beard and everything. He does make a perfect visual villain too.
Right, but he's that perfect, and I guess if we're thinking about revolution, he is sort of the focus of everything that they're fighting against. In the Liberty trilogy, the world has been taken over by the Deep Green movement, where population is limited, everybody is made infertile except for the breeders. Like, that's your job, as you're a breeder. It's sort of like a Handmaid's Tale in that sense. Only the god in Liberty is the environment, and Liberty is a breeder, and so she has to fight to be what she wants to be and not a farm animal, basically. So Supero is kind of the face of the Deep Green movement. He really, really believes that what he is doing is right. And I think that's what makes all of the best villains so relatable, but also so terrifying, is because we tend to think what we're doing is right. And I mean, heck, Hitler thought what he was doing was right. So just because you think what you're doing is right doesn't mean that you're right. And having to come face to face with people fighting against what you believe in, it can either cause us to cling more tightly to our own ways, or it can cause us to think, okay, what is ultimate truth? And I think that's where this the whole Liberty trilogy just shines. What do you ladies think? Jump on in.
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I think part of the beauty, I think, of this, and I've not read a lot of other dystopian theories to compare to much, but when I think of revolution, I think of a big bang of something happening. But this third book really shows you how it's not necessarily a big bang. It's small little actions taken by individual people that really make the revolution. And I think that's where the beauty of it is, because it's all about Liberty finding her place and where she's called to do what she needs to do.
Well, and there's also a notion that I think is beautiful in this story, that Liberty is having a bit of a revolution inside of herself. That what's going on the outside, that turmoil that is reflected on the inside of her, is just, it makes it a really interesting read, but it's also a beautiful reflection, because it's always from the inside out. It's always about what's going on inside each one of us, and will we conquer what is ultimately bad inside of us and then ultimately larger in the culture?
And I don't think this is a big spoiler here, but Cathy, I really see what you're saying. I think there's this one moment at the end, at the very end, where there's the change that revolution brings about in us, but there's still always a part of us from before the change that's still going to live on in our memory, in our habits, in our inner culture. There's a scene at the end where Dedrick wants to give Liberty flowers. And Dedrick was born and lived in a culture that was separate from this indoctrinated deep green world that Liberty grew up in. So Dedrick cuts flowers and gives them to Liberty, and she's kind of sort of horrified. She's like, why would you give me something dead?
So, how dare you?
I know, but there was that sense of how dare you, but you could also see that he was striving to understand where she came from, and she was striving to understand where he was coming from. Mm-hmm. And I think that was just, I don't think that spoils much. Theresa, if it does, I'm sorry. Readers, sorry. I'm flower scene. But it shows, it doesn't just tell, it shows how much, how deeply revolution can change just how we think about everything. I mean, the three of us, we don't think of ourselves as subjects of the crown. We never would. That's ridiculous. We're not subjects of anybody except God. So it was interesting. Any other thoughts on Fight for Liberty before we move on to another book?
Well, I think that the way that she used, because I'm new to this series, and the way that she interwove information from colonial America through this virtual reality game that Liberty uses to frame the way she's learning about Liberty itself was brilliant. I just loved it. I love the foil of the two. So I don't think we're spoiling. We're teasers. These are teasers. These are not spoilers.
Yeah. Teasers. That's a good way of saying it. So yes, I hope this wets. If you people haven't read this series yet, I highly recommend it. It's very well written. Just it's the kind of series that rips out your heart and stops on it and then gives it back to you. It's all healed and it's got wings now. So it's I really loved it. It's one of my favorite things that I read last year. The next, let's talk about the book that was the hardest to acquire this month. We're all laughing. We all went, well, I didn't really go through that much of adventure getting Bright Candles by Nathaniel Benchley, a novel of the Danish resistance. So yeah, here's my library copy. Yay! Our library had it. No one else's library had it.
Yeah.
We're all kind of course, like Rebecca recommended this book, and it is an awesome book. So if you can hunt down your interlibrary loan folks and ask them to get you a copy of Bright Candles by Nathaniel Benchley, I highly recommend it. It's a shame that this book is. Go ahead, Cathy. Sorry.
I can't wait to read it.
I've got two.
We're doing the talking on this one.
I've got one I can sell you, Cathy, because after I ordered my used copy, the interlibrary loan came through, so I've got two in my possession now.
Well, and I actually received mine, but it was only a day or so ago, and there was no time to get through.
Okay.
So I still get to enjoy it. So come on, girls, tell me why.
Okay. Here's a big spoiler: the Germans lose the war.
Dang.
The Danish win. Resistance wins. Surprise! Yay! Well, what was the funny thing about reading Bright Candles was we were reading Bright Candles at the same time that I was reading, and my older kids started reading it too. If you've got young adult readers at home, like I would say, I don't know, Carolyn, like 6th grade and up would be okay with this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think 6th, 7th grade. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a pair of rising 8th graders, and I let them read it, and I don't know if they got a chance to finish it yet, but it's the story of, okay, if you are Danish and I mispronounce this name, comment and like gives me some sort of phonetic breakdown of how you say Jens. It's probably Jens or something like that, but Jens. Okay, so he's the main character in Bright Candles. And at the time I was reading this, we were listening to Tom Sawyer as an audiobook, an unabridged Tom Sawyer. And it was interesting to see how Jens and his friend Ola, again, sorry, our Danish friends out there, if I'm butchering these names, it's not my intention. When we first start the book, they are kind of like immature pranksters. They got kicked out of the Boy Scouts for putting schnapps in their leader's canteen when they went on a hike. So this is the kind of guys that we're dealing with. And Carolyn, what are some of the not pranks? When the Germans arrive, they take over, the Danish government essentially surrenders, and so the Nazis are in charge.
So
and,
they want to put "kick me" stickers on their back, and put sugar in the gas tank.
Right, sugar in the gas tank.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're more like just they start out really immature, but then as the book goes along and they see when it starts, they know that what's coming is evil. They know it's bad, but they're just sort of like, they're pranksters about it. They're making fun of the bad guys. They're not really trying to fight against them. But as the war deepens and the oppression of the Danish people deepens, and yet Jens's Jewish neighbors are threatened now, it takes a big turn. They realize that they are putting their lives on the line for something that is good, and for saving other lives. And I also, Carolyn, what did you think about the change in his relationship with his dad, the main character's relationship with his dad through the story?
Well, his dad, you just wanted to knock him over the head with a board or something, because he couldn't seem to understand what was going on around him. He gave the Germans every possible strange benefit of the doubt. But he just was patient with his dad, really, and so was his mom. And really, when his dad's way of thinking finally changes, he's ready there to welcome him into it. So I thought, really, you'd think that'd be a more strained relationship even than it was. They sort of waited it out on him.
Yeah, I thought that was a beautiful tension between the three of them. How Jens's mother and her son, they were both in their own way involved in the resistance. I don't want to give away how his mom was, because that's sort of a I don't want to say fun surprise. It was a satisfying surprise. How she was, they were supporting each other's work, resisting the Nazi occupation. And then it was so powerful to see how they still stood by the dad of the family without agreeing with him, and still presented the truth in love to him. Very, like Carolyn, like you said, really, really patiently. And I thought that was a really good example. Before we went on air tonight, we were talking a little bit about the resist movement. I mean, I want to say in America, but it's not, it's just online. It just resist anything that doesn't make you feel good is kind of how it's coming across to me. Anybody else feel that way? But how they bore with him patiently and were willing to wait for the truth to convince him. They didn't have to throttle him and think that screaming at him would change his mind. They were willing to wait for the truth to convince him. And I thought that was really a powerful thing for me to see, in our, in reference to how I should relate to the people in my life who are giving all sorts of evil things the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm. I didn't really extend it to that, but that's so true. It goes so far beyond the circumstances they were in and how we treat one another when we're not, to what things that are obvious to us are not to everybody else,
Yeah, it was a really powerful example, I thought. And also, I really like the theme of, even just the title itself, Bright Candles. Carolyn, did you notice at the beginning when the narrator was talking about the Danish custom of even if you have a room with electric light in it?
Yeah, you still had candles.
Right, you would still light a candle. And
Yeah.
how that sort of, you know, the fire imagery and the light and darkness imagery that kind of wove really subtly throughout the book. I thought that was really, really cool.
It did, and it made it so powerful in the end, like never having lived under blackout conditions, never gave it too much thought, but if you've gone years without seeing lights at night, how revolutionary would it be to see the lights again?
Right, just that feeling of, ah, light, or, you know, having your own light on, even in the darkness. Cathy, are we making you want to read this book now?
I am just, I'm not, I can't wait.
Okay, good. Good. Yeah, I really recommend it. It's worth hunting down and getting your own copy. Carolyn, any last thoughts on Bright Candles?
Only that I'd really recommend it. It was one of those books, you know, first person point of view. It just sucked me in. I really got lost in it, which is always a mark of a good book. I'm not picking anything apart. I just enjoyed it from beginning to end.
Yeah, and another winning recommendation. Absent Rebecca recommended that, and you know she picked another winner. So good job, Rebecca. We miss you. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about Click Clack Moo. Cows that type. From the sublime to the ridiculous, I suppose, is the direction we're going tonight. Okay, Cathy, did you get a chance to read Click Clack Moo?
Yes, I did.
All right, what are your thoughts on Revolution as shown by the children's modern literary classic of Click Clack Moo?
Well, I thought that it was honestly a beautiful example of showing resistance, showing revolution in respectful terms. You know, I mean, it's so silly that there are cows that are typing on a typewriter to type notes to send to the farmer to say that they wanted better conditions in the barn. But I love the fact that the cows aren't going and burning down the barn. They aren't doing anything destructive. They aren't being unkind. They are just typing their notes to the farmer and annoying him enough that he wants to do something about it. So I liked that. I liked that it was a non-violent form of revolution.
Okay. I have an issue with Click Clack Moo. So that was a really good. That was a perspective that I had not considered. I see the value of that because it does show an example of peaceful expression.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Expression. Okay, I get that.
The one thing I thought about this is it does illustrate what you see in the other two books we talk about, that when there's a rebellion, it creates more rebellion. You know, it starts with the cows, it moves to the chickens or the hens, and then it spreads to the ducks. Just saying, there's alliances that form. And I thought in that small, very simple way, I mean, that's what you see in Bright Candles. That's what you see in Fight for Liberty, that there's alliances and there's rebellion. It kind of grows, you know, that desire for this freedom or the revolt. So I thought that was interesting.
That's true too. Okay. Here's what I guess I got hung up on the end of this book, not the very end, but I have a philosophical problem. I have some kind of problem with the cows, and by extension the chickens. They get what they want by giving up the typewriter. In order to get what their comfort, they give up their voice. They give up their means of peaceful protest. So, like, this is going to sound insane. My kids the first time I read this book, my kids got it with, like, a kid's meal from Chick-fil-A, and we were visiting my cousin. And my cousins my cousin and her husband, they're really staunch libertarians. And we were reading this book together. We all, like we were reading it to the kids, and then we stopped and looked at each other like, why would you give up your voice for an electric blanket? Why would you surrender your power so you can have an electric blanket? And so the chickens can have electric blankets. So maybe I'm reading too much into it then. Or maybe,
well, I think it's just that you can write the sequel, Duck for President, or whatever it is that followed Click Clack Moo.
Yeah, I know there's another one. I forget what it is. I haven't read past the Click Clack Moo one, but
right.
No, I do. I do see the value of what you both pointed out. The peaceful resistance, the power of not being destructive, of being constructive and expressive. Maybe to the point of annoying the farmer.
Right.
But, you know, okay. Any other thoughts on Click, Clack, Moo or any of our other books?
Well, I like what Carolyn was mentioning about that in a revolution or whatever, and we're seeing this go on in people in America and around the world with the whole resist idea, that you develop sort of coalitions. And my prayer and my hope is that we develop coalitions that overcome evil with good. And so that we're resisting the vices and the ugliness inside ourselves more than just resisting what we just don't like on the outside. You know, I pray that the resistance is more inward than outward, because the outward, we're just angry and mean to each other, and that never does anybody any good, and it doesn't produce good results. You know, then you have to destroy a lot and then rebuild a lot, you know, whereas when we resist the evil inside, then good things come.
That's right. That's a really good point, because if we only think of revolution in terms of what we demand of others, then we're in essence surrendering what power we have. Because in the end, the only power we have is power over ourselves.
You got it.
And you see that in Bright Candles.
Yeah.
In Fight for Liberty. Click, clack, moo.
Don't know.
Maybe it's just too. I don't think the book is without its merits. Don't get me wrong. It's just something to think about. That's all we do here on Sabbath Rest Book Talk. Is it something to think about? So there you go. All right. Well, before we close tonight, hold on, everybody. We're going to announce our winner for the Liberty Trilogy very, very soon. Meanwhile, I think you guys both have some news to share from your worlds. Carolyn, you've got a pretty cool, what's the word? Guest blog series going on. You want to tell us about some of the things that we have coming up on your blog?
Yeah, through the rest of the summer, Mondays, because I tie it into Monday blogs, it's what I call the Summer Blogapalooza. So I have varied writers, including a great post that you shared last week about doing video as part of your author platform. And we've got all kinds of, Theresa Linden actually has something coming up in later, I think in August, hers is. We've had one about an adult vacation Bible school. Tomorrow's is more about Catholic fiction writing. So it's fun to have guest writers, and they're all been fantastic articles.
All right, cool. Thank you. I stumbled. I wasn't trying to get you to plug my post. I was just, wanted to give you a chance to plug your blog. And what is the name of your blog?
My Scribbler's Heart, and it's at CarolynAstfalk.com. You can just find the blog there.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm sure our viewers will go check that out if they have not already, or go check it out even if you already have, because there's always something new. Cathy, you want to tell us what you've got going on in Chicago? Not next week, because technically next week. Go ahead. Tell us what you've got going on in Chicago.
Well, there is the Catholic Marketing Network Conference and the Catholic Writers Guild Conference happen concurrently in Chicago. And I'm going to be speaking to the authors about how virtue can superpower your writing, and to the retailers about how they are amazing superheroes and that they can even apply virtue in how they merchandise and market their businesses. So, and then
I am looking forward.
And I'm going to be also having a booth that's going to be a reading room on a trade show floor for people to try out and test drive really fabulous fiction books, that so many of which are done by authors that are either independently published or from a smaller press. And there's really good stuff out there, and people don't know how to find it. So that's part of what VirtueWorks Media is all about, is creating an online mechanism for people to find all the fabulous things that are being written now. So you will never have to open a book and cringe at, oh no, not that. You won't have to do that anymore. So anyway.
Yay.
Well, yeah, Cathy, your work it's so needed. So yeah, keep fighting that good fight. I'm really looking forward to seeing. I'm looking forward to seeing you, but I'm also looking forward to seeing the content that you're going to be providing to all of us at the Network Trade Show and the Writers Guild Conference. I'll be there too. Given 2 talks. One is about doing video in your social media platform. Even if you are terrified of seeing yourself on camera, if the thought fills your stomach with bile, then perhaps you should come to my talk Wednesday. The other one is going to be about the 9 ways of prayer of St. Dominic. So, yeah, hopefully I can see you there. Check me out on my Instagram account, on Twitter. I'll even be posting stuff to Facebook. I'm on Snapchat now. I've been using Snapchat, and Carolyn can vouch for the fact that I've been using Snapchat with at least a modicum of success. So I'll be snapping and chatting from there. So all of that stuff you can get to via my website, ErinMcColeCupp.com. I think there's a link to that here on my YouTube channel. So if you don't know how to find that, find me. We'll connect. We'll talk. Alrighty. Yeah, do check there too for our August theme and selection and book selections. So without further ado, let's announce the winner of the Chasing, Testing, Fight for Liberty trilogy. Our winner is Elena Dean. Yay! Congratulations, Elena Dean. Theresa will be in contact with you. This is really exciting. This is the first time that we got a chance to like announce something on here that wasn't just talking about just talking about books. There's no such thing as just talking about books. But yeah, that was pretty cool. And I think viewers we'll get some more of that in the future. We've got some things in the works. So yeah, stay in touch. We'll keep you posted. That's what I'm trying to say. This serving of word salad has been brought to you by me, Erin McCole Cupp. Carolyn, thank you for joining us tonight. Cathy, thank you for stepping out and giving us a try this evening. I hope it was fun. I hope you enjoyed Sabbath Rest Book Talk as much as we enjoyed having you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Veritas, have a good evening.
Good night.
All right, next month, if not before.
Okay.
God bless. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.